In the lore of the ancients, there was a time when trees didn't stand still, when they weren't rooted to the ground, but they could wander a little. They were known as the keeper of stories and records, to go to places where their wisdom was needed and to plant seeds of new possibility into the soil of reality. It is said that even today, if you see a tree on a hill alone, that within the core of that tree is a seed of a story. And those who take the time to stop on their path and connect might receive a secret for their own story. Story is one thing that has been here as long as we have, and probably longer. Throughout the ages, story has been used as a great creative tool, as a way to sort of honor what has been and weave new possibilities into the fabric of reality. Because while concepts and ideas speak to our minds, stories have a way of speaking to our experience. When I listen to your story, I hear your story and I hear you, but I also hear myself within it. And the ancient ones knew that. Have you ever had the experience of kind of stepping out from a film or finishing the chapter of a book, and you kind of hop in your car and you're driving along the road and the wind's kind of blowing through your balding head, and you have this feeling like, wow, that movie was speaking to me. That hero, the step that he took was a step that I'm about to take. The crisis that she just overcame has given me a clue, has given me some sort of hint into the whirlwind that's going on around me. The purpose of my talk is to share a little bit about the path of hero in story, and to awaken within all of us the call of the hero that is waiting, that is calling us into being. Now, sometimes life truly feels like an epic adventure, and sometimes it doesn't. It's true, I once had a mullet. Come on, who else had a mullet? Someone. I'm not alone, I know I'm not. I've never shown this picture in public, actually. I was born in Walnut Creek, California. Tom and Christy Richards. I was raised in the mountains of Colorado, the youngest of 3 brothers. I had the gift of experiencing high education in a wonderful, prestigious school in the States, and learned a lot about the path of story, and had the chance to create a few of my own. But my true place of learning and my doorway to my own hero's journey was in the ski fields of Colorado. There was something about moving down through the mountain at a great speed, or lofting off a jump 10, 20, 50, 60 feet into the air that kind of gave me a glimpse of something, made me hungry for something that was beyond this personal experience. And so it became my path. And for me, it was the way, it was the only way. And my goal, my vision, my dream, my commitment was to go to the Olympics, to win the Olympics. That seed was planted at age 12. And by 20, I was close. I was actually ranked number 1 in the U.S. for my sport of freestyle skiing, and I was knocking on the door of a World Cup and Olympic berth. And one afternoon, landing a big jump on the last day of a big competition, just a couple weeks before a big qualifying event, I landed a jump the same way I landed probably 10,000 other jumps. And on that day, something else happened. For whatever reason, lightning through the sky, I don't know. But when I landed, just as I always had, a shot of pain went up through the left side of my body, stopping just briefly here to sort of explode my knee. Reconstructive surgery, learning how to walk again, learning how to move again, and then building momentum the following year. 9 months later, I came back, regained my ranking somehow, positioned myself in the same exact place, and about 2 weeks before another major event, I went off a different jump and landed, and this time the pain shot up through my right leg. Reconstructive surgery, learn to walk again, learn to move again. But this time there was a little pause, just enough pause, that my coach, who was devastated, just said, hey, why don't you take the season off and come coach with me? And so I said, okay, I'll do that. I can stay close to the fire and get ready for next season. And about an hour into my first day of coaching, something happened. All the pain and all the angst and all the frustration of the journey that had led me to where I was and had crumbled the path that I was sure I was on fell away. And I started to wake up to a path that was somehow different. I had trained myself to be a great competitor, but there was something very natural about this, that just kind of coming home to myself. So I followed it a little bit. And within a couple of years, the team I was coaching was doing pretty well, and I was asked to come down here to Australia and work with their national ski team for a couple months. I thought, sure, what the heck? I'll ride my bike through Indonesia and go to Australia, and they're flying me down there, and I'll coach their team for 3 months, and then I'll just start riding west and figure out when I come home. I told my family I'd be back in about a year, maybe 2, and that was about 19 years ago. Because something happened in those first 3 months that I wouldn't have predicted. First, I met and married my beautiful soulmate, Ashiana, in those first 3 months. And second, the short-term 3-month gig with the Australian national team opened up into a full-time head coach position with their Olympic program. And about exactly one Olympic cycle after the one that I was aiming for, I had the honor of coaching a whole team of people through the Olympics. My dream realized in a different way, somehow. Somehow totally unexpected, but so much more appropriate. Ash and I discovered the power and passion of travel. We put a bunch of things in a hat to decide where to go for our honeymoon, picked out the road to Santiago. I don't know why, in winter, 800 kilometers across Spain. I think we were the only ones in Spain. But this birthed a passion for other paths and other ways of moving, which gave seeds to other ideas and birthed new heartbeats and new dreams, which brought us here. Gardens were grown, fires were built, elders of tribes and forests were consulted with, new allies were found, new causes to believe in and galvanize energy around were born, and a deep passion for Mother Earth started to come alive in everything for us. And for me, amidst it, there was these two kind of schizophrenic paths. One was just this passion for story that had been born from the early days of listening to my grandfather talk about being a porter in the hotel that Al Capone came in and, watching him go and blow up a bunch of people from the elevator. And then this other part of me that was just passionate about the expanded realms of human potential and what it takes to go beyond what we think is possible without exploding our body parts. And somehow, over the course of about 10 years, those two paths just started to merge. And I started to bring more and more elements of story into the work that I was doing with humans, and more elements of humanity into the stories I was really interested in writing and sharing with people. And along the way, I started to notice, wow, these two worlds are actually the same. There's patterns, there's things that happen that on the way to receiving or achieving or claiming something in our life that mirrors what goes on in every story that we watch. I wasn't the first person to discover this. Joseph Campbell, many of you might know, coined this pattern, the hero's journey. And This is my little simple version of it. He said that every hero begins our journey in our ordinary world, a path we think we're supposed to be on. But that sometime along the way, sometimes lightning strikes and shakes us from our path. Someone shakes the tree or bumps us from the path we think we're sure that we were meant to be on, and calls us to cross a threshold into another world, a bigger world, an extraordinary world, where we meet new people and new challenges. And at first it's a leap of faith, but then we come to a point where we must commit. And in committing, we commit to dive right down deep to the very center of who we are and discover the reason why we came on this journey in the first place. With that, we leap out and return, bringing our elixir to the world. It's kind of a blending of Joseph Campbell and me. But what I started to notice was, wow, not only is this present in story, in every single land and every single culture you could ever go to, but it's everywhere. It's in everyday life. Every day, we have moments to receive the call. For me, it was not a comfortable call. I have to say, from now, I can remember a whisper in my ear the morning of both days when I hurt myself that said, you don't need to ski today. But the driver in me did, you know? And looking back now, while that was one of the most painful moments of my life, I can see it now for its poetry and its perfection. I ignored the whisper. I actually ignored the first scream, but the second one got me. The call's not always comfortable, but it comes for a reason. It's that if you build it, they will come moment from the field of dreams. It takes us by surprise sometimes, and it's easy to justify, I can't do that. That's not realistic. That's not the path I'm on. But sometimes there's a part of us, there's a future part of us, the hero that we're becoming, the part of us that we haven't even met yet, but is smiling back on our journey, that's planting a little seed in our path to say, hey, wake up, it's time to start. I'll meet you in about 10 years. There is a moment on every path when we must cross the threshold. We must say yes in one way or another and take a little leap. For me, it was saying yes to coaching. Why not? It was just a little yes. It wasn't a huge yes at first, right? But that little step, it's got to be action. It's got to be us going, okay, yeah, I'm going to say yes to this. But there is also a moment, a point when true commitment is called for. When the leap of faith was great, but now we come to the place where we have all the facts. And with those facts, I say, yes, this is what I'm doing. And with that comes great power, but it also often brings us to this place we call the innermost cave. And when we go there, we think, oh my God, why did I commit to that thing? That was the wrong choice. But what we don't realize is that this is part of the design. It's part of the design. To make that commitment and to plunge so deep into ourselves that we forget who we are. That there's no trace of who we have been. And in that space, we let go and come in at the same time, and something happens. Worlds come together. From the deep and from above, something connects. And in that moment, we're free to return. In that moment, we're free to join our friends again. In that moment, we're free to join our tribe. And bring that little seed, whatever that seed was, back to share. And it's in that bringing of the seed back to share that we realize, oh my God, that's why that call came way back here. That thing that was so annoying, that thing that was so devastating, that thing that was so painful, holy smokes, it's given birth to this. So much bigger. So much bigger than I ever could have imagined. So what are the keys? They're really simple, actually. I've got a couple of minutes to give them to you. First one is to recognize the heroic patterns that are in your journey. Just to start to be aware. Wow, where am I? Is there something that I'm feeling called to do right now? But maybe I'm debating about it, the little whisper that's getting a little bit louder? Or am I standing sort of right on the little threshold of the place I'm not supposed to go because the tape's here, and I know that I got to step out further if I want to experience what the call is? Am I in this sort of chaos of the early days of tests and allies after jumping in, and I don't know really what's going on, but I'm just kind of struggling because I'm just trying to keep my head above water? Because that too is part of the design sometimes. Or am I at that point where I'm ready to fully commit and leap in? Or maybe some of us in this room have done that and we've brought ourselves to this space here today because we're in a deep place. And we're like, holy smokes, I hope one of these speakers will speak something to me that will give me a kernel of some spark to help me lift myself out. And my sense is probably yes. Because as we listen to the people speaking and sharing their stories, we're not listening to their stories. We're listening to our story. So where are you? That's the first question. And you could be in many different places. And the other invitation is to start to awaken to the call that's ready to be born within you. And it might come in a little subtle opening. It could be the tiniest little moment, or it could be like God reaching down from the heavens. It could be in a simple moment of connection, or it could be in the mighty rush of a wave that's so big you're thinking, holy smokes, I don't know how I'm going to get through this one. They're calls. And no matter where they come from, no matter what they look for or look like, they're looking for you. No matter what they look like, you got to recognize that ultimately they're coming from you. Ultimately, they're coming from the hero inside of you that's ready to awaken. It's up to you to take the first step.